The Mission of Carolina to Alkebulan. The characters and events portrayed in this book are fictitious. Any similarity to real persons, living or dead, is coincidental and not intended by the author. The Mission of Carolina to Alkebulan is a work of fiction that focuses on the Alkebians' battle to return to their ancestral homeland of Alkebulan. The burden to accomplish this mission falls on the shoulders of a young lady who knows little about her origins. After translating the scroll excavated by an archaeologist in the city of Farani, Carolina became possessed by an ancient power. She realized it was her mission to lead the Alkebian nation scattered all over the earth to their continent. Faced with opposition from across the globe, she took her desire to fulfill the long-awaited mission to lead the Alkebians to Alkebulan into her own hands, and she embarked on a massive campaign on the inescapable mission that will usher into the world a new history that will change the world forever. The battle of the long-awaited prediction is about to begin. Break the scroll, the Alkebians will go home. The circumstances of the mission remained extremely worrisome. To be or not to be, the Alkebians are going home. A playground stood dilapidated, empty, and not abolished. The inhabitants made their home on the wet, muddy, bloody near that was once earth. The daytime was risky and a death trap for those who dared raise their heads to look at the faces of the blood-sucking humans, who have chosen the identity of rebels or government militia, though bored of women. The inhabitants mostly hid during the daytime. They washed their tattered clothes at night and hung them in the field so that the nighttime air could ultra-dry the wet. Mosquito noises were making their nights sleepless. The adults had angrily torn their mosquito nets into pieces, using them as covering cloth at night. They dreamed of war when they slept. The sound of guns kept on coming like nightmares in their silence. In the morning before the roost crow, they dressed up in ill-moisture clothes to cover their nakedness. They were always afraid and anxious. Beyond the physical aches and mental strains, they were already preoccupied with other things. They remember how their loved ones were once killed as they looked on helplessly, unable to do anything to stop it. They were once upon a time friends, but now they are foes. They burnt their houses and stole their possessions, and only the survivors were able to share their suffering. In the camp had helped to reduce the suffering by depopulation. The doctors saved lives in the hundreds, but for the lack of medical equipment, the refugees died in their thousands. Those who survived daily were pessimistic about the future. The refugee settlement was built to have those fleeing from conflicts, but it has turned out to be a settlement for innocent kids, women, and ill people placed in very close proximity. Currently, a great number of volunteers and people of all ages worked together day and night to keep the camp running, and it were obvious that the needs are still boundless. Peace was far from reality. The need to return home was on the rise amongst them. The impatient refugees were ferried back by ship to their various communities. Although thousands have registered to go back home, the camps were always filled with tension and frustration, and the inhabitants were always ready to turn into rebels. Their hungry stomach had metamorphosed into an angry belly. The accumulated anger was ripe to burst, and the aggression could melt the ice if transferred. Since peace has never been a friend of humans, it will remain an unbreakable record for these humans to learn how to live in harmony. Now, life seems to be in between that of the Neolithic era and the future period still far off. Today will be another yesterday by this time tomorrow. Liars never lie but speak. As another summer approached, they began finalizing their plan of going back home. The first groups were supposed to begin boarding the ships and aeroplanes. Many had decided to return by ship when summer arrives. The route was opened, and the pilots were already receiving the ready-to-go signals. The ship's engines were about to start, the pilots were preparing to fly, and the passengers were the offspring of Alkebulan who had been transported out of the continent many years before. The idea of seeing Alkebulan warmed the passengers' emotions with senses of shared awareness. This occurrence was the subject of their many dreams. The journey was about to begin, an unfathomable transformation of new beginnings, the tugging and pushing sensation that had pulled them into the planes and into the ships, now or never. The power was only perceptible in their emotions. It was an uncontrollable force that tested the veracity of faith. If nature changes the predictions against the expectation, can a mere mortal understand the secret of another million years? Is it possible to know the specific language that a baby in the womb speaks while still inside their mother? However, they are born into the turbulent world once their mother pushes them out of the womb, and they start learning the new terrestrial languages. The conflict began in an Asuya cave. Now she could recall everything, Dr. Susie's death, the deaths of the three professors, her visit to Alkebulan, the individual she had met, and her incarceration, and she grinned at everything she had experienced during these times. The image of Eddie resurfaced in her mind, and then she called out her mother's name, silently. "Mary James," she muttered to herself. "We have finally achieved victory." The animal's keen sense of smell and awareness provide them with the ability to foresee natural disasters minutes, hours, days, and weeks before they occur. When you see animals, birds, and fish moving away from a place with unusual behavior, know that calamity is about to befall that place. She proved it to them using several cases: the hurricane in Bayou, the earthquakes in Neon, and the tsunami in Ushuaia. The animals have a deep instinct to avert calamity by moving out of the red zone to a safe place. They listened to her, and they decided to pull out of the dock and move further inland into the city as she hurried them up. Along the coast were impacted by the second wave, which had traveled over 500 meters inland. The wave returned with more intensity, carrying the dead with it and dumping fresh life into the water. The bulk of them forgot their identities, the number of casualties had grown, and by the time it had traveled more than 1,000 meters inland, the skies were filled with cries and sadness. Vanity exposed by life, the battle grew meaningless, hundreds of people perished, buildings collapsed on their owners, and properties valued at billions of dollars were washed into the ocean. Things happen because they have to happen. Man can only control things that were never meant to happen. The forces that create incidents are beyond the supremacy of ordinary man, and nothing in the universe could stop things that were meant to happen from happening. Emptiness is the mortal man's labor, but the living are bound to this emptiness, and any man's hope of living forever is vanity. The mission of Carolina to Alkebulan. The characters and events portrayed in this book are fictitious. Any similarity to real persons, living or dead, is coincidental and not intended by the author. The mission of Carolina to Alkebulan is a work of fiction that focuses on the Alkebians' battle to return to their ancestral homeland of